Welcome everyone back to the Pathways to Success podcast. I'm very excited to announce returning guest, Mr. Matt Sandrini, who is a high performance and business coach, helping 7 to 9 figure entrepreneurs take control of their day and focus on what brings real results to reach the next level in life and business. Matt's journey started when working as a business consultant for an international firm and started to question the value of his own time and actions. After launching his first business, he started sharing his principles online, which generated millions of views. Matt lives in London and travels and works remotely for 3 months of the year, while growing his business and helping top performers take control of the only resource that is scarce: time. Matt Sandrini, welcome back to the podcast, man. How are you?
It's great to be back. Thank you for having me back. Yeah, I'm good. I'm great. It's you were saying I'm based in London, which I am, and the weather is as bad as you would expect it today, but it was sunny earlier, so we get all the seasons in one day. How, it doesn't get better than that.
Wow. Yeah, we are the counter opposite. It is beautiful outside right now. It's like 75 degrees, sunny. I can't complain, man. So
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Well, Matt, after looking over these topics that we're going to be discussing, I have to say I have sort of a renewed enthusiasm about getting you on and talking about these things because last Friday was my last day as an employee, right?
Yes. Yes.
So,
How do you feel? It's just a couple of days later, right? Wow.
yeah, so that Friday I did my exit interview like at 2 o'clock. And then right afterwards, I went straight to my new co-working space, which I was actually sponsored by City Central, this beautiful co-working space, which worked out just perfectly in terms of time. So honestly, I had no sadness. It was more excitement about this new chapter of my career that I've been wanting to do for the past 11 years.
Wow. I am excited, so I can't imagine how much you are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's crazy is that like as soon as I like my life is like super crazy right now with all these things that are happening, and this is going to be my first time really experiencing what it's like to be a full-time entrepreneur on my own. And right now I'm having a lot of issues kind of managing my time and figuring out where I need to spend, what are the tools, what are the best practices. That's why this conversation is perfect.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because I'm
What's
essentially
the
I'm
what
essentially
what is
your
the
customer. You know what I mean? So it's like this is going to be like a counseling session. So it's great.
Yeah. What is the biggest challenge that you see ahead of you, of yourself right now, especially in this transition of going full time?
The biggest thing is that I have so many inquiries for speaking, for coaching. I have so much data coming at me through email, through text messages, through social, especially through LinkedIn. It's like, how do I capture all of these bits? How do I put them into a project management tool? How do I create focus on the things that are most important for me to drive results?
hmm Well, one thing that, one thing that I say is that sometimes we need to get comfortable, say no, even to opportunities. And especially like, when you're like in a consolidation phase, like you are right now, you're going through a transformation and there's a lot of pieces are moving. And so it is important to like really understand what's going to bring the results that you want for your business and then what is going to unlock more freedom and more resources for you to then build the next level. So it's very common for like in a new project to go like, well, I need to do everything. A great example is, remember when I started my first business, I opened every single social media account on day one, and
Mm.
then I registered a new domain because I thought I needed to be everywhere. But really, that's not. It's not really the quantity of things that you do. It's more like, am I doing the right things, and am I optimizing what I'm doing? So, in your case, I would be really clear as to where do you want to bring your business in the future and what's the next milestone in terms of maybe 3 to 6 months? And then what's the one thing that will get me to that next level where maybe you can expand the business, free up more of your time, get more resources as well. And then you can take on more speaking engagement, or maybe that is the first step. I don't know. But, instead of like right now, you can probably freeze a few of those things and focus on those that really transform your business. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. So do you have like a specific decision tree? Like whenever you are hit with a piece of data, how do you filter it in your mind to figure out if I can, and what are the different things? Is it planned forward? Is it scheduled? Is it, tickle? What do you do?
Yeah, yeah. So the main thing is to start with the end in mind. usually when we look at, okay, what do I do next? Even we do it on a daily basis, or we do it on a macro level as well. So on a daily basis, it's easier to explain. Most of us just sit down in front of our laptops or in front of a desk, and we just say, what am I going to work on next? And usually that's email, and someone else is going to hijack your day, right? Someone else is going to tell you what to do. And so we just look at what to do next. And it's the same like in business. It's more like, okay, what opportunity do I have next? And just saying yes to that. Instead, I like to start with the end in mind. So for me, the first step is to look at 3 to 5 years from now and really use that to paint a picture and say, where do I want to, what's the impact I want to have? Where do I want to bring my business? And what do I want to get through that business? What lifestyle do I want to have? And really like when you look that far ahead in the future, you don't have the constraints that you have right now. Because, if you think about 3 to 5 years from now, probably you are a very different person with a very different business, very different people around you, very different skills. So if you think 5 years from now, if you're very intentional, you can create even more of that change. And so really, you don't have the shackles of the present to think that. So thinking that long term is great to just to design the map of where you want to go. And then you break that down, you make it a little bit more actionable. You say, okay, how do I get closer to that in the next 12 months? And you just say, okay, to get closer to that. And then you at that point, it's then when you make it more granular. So for example, you say, well, speaking is really important to me because it fits into, maybe it gives me more resources to create a team because, it's great. I get paid great money per the time invested. Or maybe it's just the fact that, well, the impact and the ability to travel and meet more people is what I want to get through speaking. So I know that is a great point to start from. And so you go all in and you go like, okay, how can I get my speaking to the next level? And then once you do that, the people that you've met through speaking, they will help you in anything else. If you want to launch a product, well, now it's so much easier to launch a product because you have the baseline, the confidence, the lessons, the people that you've learned through speaking. I'm sure you've experienced this in your podcast through like doing all these interviews. You have grown a solid base of skills and people and ideas that now are helping you with your business, with your next phase, even if it's not a podcast, but they're helping you in doing that. And it's because you specialize in your podcast, you brought it to the next level. And then when you do something else, you don't start from the baseline. Your baseline has grown. Does that make sense?
It does, 100%. And the one biggest takeaway I gotten is really beginning with the end in mind. What is it that you're trying to create, and how do you filter the current level of activities to sort of support that vision, right?
Yeah. And when you do that, your actions can be a straight line or as close as possible to a straight line. When you don't do that, the thing is, you just say yes to what comes your way that's good. The thing is it good, but is it also taking me where I want to go? Because if not, you're just going to move in like, it's not going to be a straight line. It's not going to look, and it's going to take you much longer to get to a point that might not even be where you wanted to go. There's a quote I really like, which is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
So just having this conversation right now made me realize I'm actually really good at prioritizing the highest value events. Like, they're very obvious to me. This is going to help me grow my business. What makes me, what I struggle with is the sort of the lower value ones, just the basic inquiry off of, LinkedIn and, hey, I want to pitch you this podcast guest, right? Because here's something that I know. Some of these seemingly low value tasks have created massive results in my business in the past, and I don't want to set them down, but I know on face value, it might not be the thing that I need to be doing. How do I capture those and like put them? I think I'm having a tools problem, to be honest with you, a project management and task issue. Like, what is your recommendation for capturing all those things so I don't lose them? And I'm a little bit of a people pleaser by nature, and I want to help everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I would break this down into three areas, and then we'll talk about tools and kind of a strategy to deal with it.
Cool.
But I break those down into, so you want to get to the next level. So those speaking gigs and maybe those podcast guests that will take you to the next level, and you want more of that right now are coming your way, but they're a little bit scarce. Then you've got the ones that kind of are good, or maybe there's opportunities that you kind of want to say no to, but you don't know where they're going to take you, right?
Yeah, right.
But also you need time. The third area is the fact that you need time to grow the first area, right? So it's important that you allocate your time that way. So what you can do is you can say, okay, what I want actually ideally is I want to spend 100% of my time on those high impact interviews, high impact speaking gigs, right? So right now I'm going to allocate maybe 40 to 50% to it, right? Maybe it's 40%. and the remaining 60%, 30% goes to growing that, and 30% goes to the sort of entry level speaking, or the ones that you're not sure where they are going to take you. So we'll break it down that way, because otherwise what happens is that the small ones are gonna preclude you growing the big ones. So in other words, you really have to safeguard and look after that time to grow those big interviews, because it takes time. It takes time to like get that network right. It takes time to understand how to find those people, how to talk to those people. And if you don't have that, you'll stay stuck on that level. So, and one way that you can also free up more time to work on it, to make sure that like you grow that level, is by using one thing that you could do is you could delegate part of the process, the onboarding process, to someone else. For example, right now, I'm thinking of a podcast interview I did a month ago, and it's really good. So the host, I think he's done something like 2,000 interviews in. I think he did something like 3,000 interviews in 100 days. It's something crazy.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So everything was automated, and it was interesting to see that like he never saw my bio from me, because he had a system that asked me for like bio, pic, and everything. I uploaded it to a system. There was then a virtual assistant that put everything together. They created the page on the website. They scheduled everything for me and for him to meet on Skype and record. And so he didn't have to take care of the admin. He just did the thing that only him could do, which was the interview. And he did that, really well, because again, he freed up so much time. So I think that in your case, you can use some tools like a scheduler, and make sure that like instead of having to like look for when's a good time to record a podcast, right? You know that, for example, every other Thursday you record 4 podcasts in a row. That's your day, right? You don't do anything else. You record them all in a row. And I know that right now you also do it in a studio, and sometimes you have a live audience. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. You can have that, maybe the same live audience can watch 2 or 3 or 4 interviews in a row. Maybe you have like an early show and a late show. That would be incredible. And you batch everything. You prep those 4 interviews, 5 interviews just once. You're pumped, you do it, you're done for 2 weeks. I know someone else who does, with the podcast, they do the same. They just record, they close themselves in a studio for 5 days every quarter, record every single episode, and they're done for the next 90 days, and then do it all over again. And again, they record it and they send it out to someone else to edit. And all that time means that they can do more interviews. They can give interviews on other podcasts to promote their own podcast. And they can use that time to grow that, top part that we were talking about, those great speaking gigs, the great podcast interviews, so that you can get more and more of that quality.
That is going to be the next level for me, Matt. Yeah, because everything right now, I'm doing all the admin. It's like I'm the talent, I'm the scheduler, I'm the debriefer, I'm the prepper. I do all that stuff. So it sounds like one of the biggest ones was really batching, and also what's the tool? What's the calendaring tool I should use?
So I'm a big fan of Calendly. Okay. I really like that as a scheduler. What you can do is you can create different events and say, this is an event for podcasts, and you just send a link. Say you send me a link and say, just book this. And in Calendly, you just say every other Thursday and every other Friday, you can have 2 different time zones. And I just select the ones that work, the one that works for me. If there's no overlap for 2 weeks, that's fine. It'll be 3 weeks from now. But you don't have to do anything. You can just send me that. And you can just send me a template. For example, you can create an email template using Gorgias, or you can even create an autoresponder using something like, even in Gmail or in Polymail, you could do that. And when you have a guest, they get 2 or 3 emails that with a reminder to like, okay, here's how you book it. This is what you need to send me the picture. This is where to do it. And at the same time, you can have a process for yourself. So what's the process before the podcast? Maybe you want someone like a virtual assistant to do some research on your guest and find, I don't know, maybe the latest podcast interview and 2 blog posts, right? And send them to you, maybe send them to you with some highlights. And then maybe, what's the post process? So what happens after the podcast? And I would suggest having a checklist, so you don't have to think about it. You just go, I upload it to this folder. Once I do that, someone else gets a notification. They go through it and they amend it, send it back to me. I get a notification. I know it's ready. And and also like the page can be created by the other person because all the assets have been uploaded by the guest through Calendly or through another system.
I need to have that done. I know for a fact I would be much more efficient by doing something like that. So that is going to require much more execution on my part, and I appreciate that. So while we are on the topic,
and think about this: you are great. You are great at relationships, and you're great at interviews. So this frees up so much of your time to do more of just that, which is your strength and is the only thing that you can do. I remember working with a client a couple of years ago, and they just got their business to a great milestone. I think they just hit something like $10 million turnover. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to hire a new sales team. And because the business had hit like a plateau, it was growing for a very long time, and then it was no longer growing. And we just looked at why, because they thought it was because we needed more sales. We looked at why, and actually the two founders, they grew the business to that point, but they were so bogged down in admin and just chasing other people and supporting other people that they had no time to work on those strengths, the unique things that only them could do and could not delegate. And they were spending 100% of their time on things that actually they could have delegated, or actually they were already delegated, but not enough for people to be independent. And that was really dragging their business down. And I think that's, being able to use those systems and let go of the things that are not your strength, that is really important to get to the next level. And then it will happen again and you do it again.
And I know that's exactly what I needed to hear, because it's like I feel like I'm trying to do everything right now, and you're right, I'm not able to exploit my strengths to the maximum capacity because I am so bogged down with email and scheduling and all that other kind of admin stuff. You know what I mean? I don't need to be doing that, and I hate doing it too.
Yeah. There's a great exercise. My book is out in April, the beginning of April. We're going to talk about in a bit, but there's an exercise I really like, which I call your dream rate. So what I really like to do is think about what you want to earn as your next level. Maybe it's for your business, maybe it's for yourself. That really depends on the structure of your business. If you're a solopreneur or a larger business, but really think about it for yourself. What's your next level of earning, right? And then think about, okay, how many days a year do you want to take off? Let's say it's 65. Okay, that leaves you with 300 days, 300 working days. Now, how many hours you want to work full time over those days? Maybe it's 5 hours, maybe it's 10 hours, right? Let's pick 10, right? Just because it's easier. We multiply that by 300, that's 3,000 hours a year. Now take your next level of earning, what you want to earn next, and you divide that by 3,000. Now you have your hourly dream rate. So if you can find a tool, a way to delegate something that you're doing right now that costs you less than your dream rate, you have to do it, because that frees up your time to actually work on the things that will get you there. Otherwise, you'll never do it. I used to do this thing that when I flew to a new city for a workshop, for a speaking gig, to meet a friend, I used to get the bus from the airport to the city center, or the train from the airport to the city center, just because that's what I always did. And then I started getting a taxi or a black car from the airport to the city center. In the beginning, it felt so uncomfortable. And then I was like, no, all I have to do is do one thing while I'm on the taxi that generates more than my ride. And then it's a no-brainer. Why would I spend 2 hours on a bus when I can spend 30 minutes on a taxi? And with that time, I can generate more value, whether it's more enjoyment or more value for my business. If it's a speaking gig, I can fit in another meeting. It's a no-brainer. And so it's just thinking ahead. It's like, what do I want to create next? And how can I match my behavior now so that I can make that happen?
That is an exercise I have to do as well, for sure, because it's like I'm so, being the first, this is my first year being into entrepreneurship. I'm so careful about the capital that I have to, where do I need to invest? That is an amazing way to look at things. And I just need to sit down and be able to do that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think it'll be so helpful. Yeah.
So the other really big pain point I think I mentioned was task and project management. Like right now I'm using a Trello board, which looks like an absolute nightmare. I'm trying to move things over to reminders, but really it's all the in-between stuff. It's because my business and my personal life, it's all sort of meshing together now. Like something as important as like a speaking gig or a trading engagement or discovery, with also taking the time to pay my taxes or to do my laundry and things like that, right? Like what is the ultimate task system that I could use?
Well, I think that first of all, the first thing that comes to mind is theming. So I'm a
Theming.
big believer in boundaries in general.
Okay.
And as business owners, it's difficult to create boundaries for two reasons. Number one, we are free to do what we want. And in a way, we like the freedom. That sense of freedom is why we started a business. And so we don't want to go like, I'm going to create a structure for myself until we realize that we have to do it. Unless we are, if we don't do it, we are shackled. We are oppressed by an infinite to-do list. And then, we have so many opportunities that it has so many admin as well, so many things that we have to do that it's just difficult to um, to just work on the things that will make a difference. So when you create boundaries, and a great way to do that is to create themes. You decide when you're going to do something and when you're not going to do something. So two excellent ways to do this the first one is to theme your days. For example, you can say Thursday is my podcast interview day, or it's my content day. 1 week I do podcasts, 1 week I shoot videos, right? And that's what I do. That's my theme. That means that if an opportunity comes in and you say, well, shall I do it on a Monday? No, it's not a Monday thing. It's a Thursday thing. But that also means that, another theme could be Friday afternoon. For me, is my admin theme. So I know that if something comes in that I have to add to my accounts, or maybe something that I like to plan my next week on a Friday afternoon. I know that all those things, whether it's an email about my next week, whether it's again something I need to add to my accounts, if it comes in on a Tuesday, I don't even look at it because I know I will do that on Friday. That gives you so much headspace because I know exactly when things will happen. And I'm not like pulled away from my tasks all the time. I'm like, no, this is what's important. This is what I'm going to do. It doesn't matter what comes in. This is the main thing that I'm going to do. And a small way to do that as well is to have a not to-do list. I really like this concept is, instead of having a really, really long list in the morning or maybe last thing in the evening, you say tomorrow, I'm not going to do these things, and you write those down, or give yourself a free pass to go like, if I don't do it tomorrow, it's okay. Actually, if I do it, it's wrong because I decide to keep that time for something that's really, really good for me. And then you know that you can do it on a different day. And so what happens is that when you do that, instead of opening so many things and juggling boards and like having so many doors open all the time, you close them, right? You start closing one. And something I like to say is no one ever got a medal for starting. You only get a medal for finishing.
Yeah.
And again, when you run a business, so there are so many things that you should do, you could be doing, you want to be doing. That it's so easy to say yes to many things and never close them, never finish them. So when you create those themes, when you create those constraints, you start to focus on output rather than focusing on input. It's not how much you start, is how much you finish.
And when you have made a commitment to set those days, what are you looking at? Are you looking at a calendar? Like, how do I capture and document and like set in stone that? What kind of tool do you use?
Yeah. So I think there are many ways to do it. And I think that if there's a tool that works for you, the principle is more important than how you do it, right? Yeah. So this said, the way I do it is I use a Trello board that says like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then what I do is I have my theme at the top of that Trello board. So when I plan my week in advance every Friday. I go like, okay, well, when I plan my week in advance, actually, I look at my milestones. So we talked about this earlier, start with the end in mind. And what I do is I look at my quarter. I look like this is the one thing I want to accomplish for the quarter, break it down into weeks. So at that point, when I plan my week, I look at my next week in the plan and I know what I need to accomplish. So then I look at like, okay, what are the events that I have? What are other things that I need to be doing? And I just look at, my Trello board and I just allocate those things throughout the week according to those themes. And then it's so easy because then on Monday, it's my content day. That's all I do. And I'm done. I don't have to think about anything else because then I know that on Tuesday, I'll do something else. On Tuesday, so a great example is my coaching sessions are only on Monday afternoon and Thursday throughout the day. Those are my only 2 coaching days, right? That's a very rigid structure in a way. A lot of people will go like, wow, that's an intense day. It is intense. I love it, but it's 2 intense days. And at the same time, it means that I can't be as accommodating, to new clients. And that's okay. But it also means that if I want to be flexible on a Tuesday, if I want to fly somewhere, if I want to take an afternoon off, want to shoot videos for an entire day on a Tuesday, I can do it because I have themed my Monday, my Thursday. I know that every other day has something else.
Okay, that melted my mind because maybe it's not a new tool that I use, but it is using a tool differently, the Trello board. I never really thought of it as doing it as like for the week, like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So what do you use a Trello board for? What do you use a calendar for?
So in my calendar, I put my events. I put my location, though my location is also in my Trello. I guess like my calendar is mostly events, which could also be an event with myself. So for example, my morning routine is in my calendar, right? If I shoot a video, or I record. I don't know, or record like an audio. Recently, a couple of months ago, I recorded like a short audiobook that I put on my website. I did that, and that's fine, but that was still in my calendar. So if it's an event, it's in my calendar. And then in the Trello board, I put both events, even though it might not say like how long it is because that's my calendar, but it allows me to look at say that on Thursday, I have 3 meetings. That means that there's only so much I can put in that day. So to me, it's important that in the Trello board, I have everything, both like events and tasks and objectives and things that I want to accomplish. And again, like when I put things, I want to be very specific. So I don't say work on the next blog post, right? Because it's very fuzzy, but also it could be a really, really big task. What I say is,
Right.
what do I want to finish on Tuesday? And what I want to finish maybe is outline the next blog post, or it could be finish the research, or it could be write the first draft. But it needs to be something that I know, have I succeeded or not at the end of the day? Otherwise, you're constantly working towards a moving goalpost.
Oh man, yeah, that's me to a T. Well, any other tools that we should consider before we kind of jump into this next topic here?
Well, one tool I really like is it's a calendar tool. It's called Fantastical. It's not that special, but I think that's why I really like it. It just works. It's a very simple. It's a calendar tool. You can write. So if you want to add a reminder, you can just do it from your keyboard and just write remind me in 1 hour to do this, and you'll have a reminder that says do this at that particular time. So I really like that. I'm a big fan of Trello. I like the Pomodoro technique, which is a simple timer that you set. So the Pomodoro technique is it's essentially a timer. You can download an app for it, but the concept is that you choose one task and you focus on that task for 25 minutes, and then you take 5 minutes off. Now, to most people, 25 minutes is too long. So I recommend starting from 10 or 15 and then working your way up. But the idea is for those 10 or 25 minutes, you just focus on one thing, get it done, then take a break. If you want to watch a video, take a walk, do some meditation, do that and recharge. But really focus on one thing at a time. And I like to keep a piece of paper next to me when I work and write down the things that come to my mind. It's my distraction list. So if I'm working on one thing and my mind goes, send an email to Julian, I don't send that email. I just write it down on a piece of paper.
Love it.
Out of mind, and I can keep working on one thing. So the Pomodoro technique, you can download an app called Focus Timer. I like that. I guess a great app I like is Freedom. Freedom is an app you can use to block apps and websites from your computer. It used to work on mobile as well. They pulled it when Screen Time was released on iOS. Screen Time is still good, but it's easy to cheat in a way. But with Freedom, really, you say, okay, on every Monday and Tuesday, I don't want to have access to emails until 12. And that's so good because then you can work on something else.
Gotcha. Well, we've been kind of talking about this sort of already, but I know one of the things that to me is like gives me anxiety because I always have to be like a hyper planner. But you said the structure to be unstructured, why planning the week and having constraints is fundamental if you are a leader and the basis for true freedom. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's the idea that you need structure to really create what you want. And we talked about boundaries, but I remember I was at a speaking gig about a month ago, and at the end, I took a few questions, and someone from the audience asked me, "I'm a creative. I run an agency and a video agency. how can I marry my creativity with having the structure to run a business? And the first thing that came to mind is, well, you're assuming, and most of us assume, that having structure and creativity they don't help each other, but actually they support each other. Because if you work on a business all the time, like we were talking about earlier, you need to look at admin, reply to your accountant, reply to an email, book a guest. You can't be creative. You don't have the time to get that deep work to create something meaningful, right? So having a structure is so important if you're a creative, if you're a business owner, if you want to have a real impact. And that manifests in what we talked about, having those themes and boundaries, but also it manifests in being able to say no to new opportunities. And sometimes that is, it could be someone, say, you probably had an opportunity from your podcast, someone, maybe a guest coming your way with a product idea, or maybe a partnership, or maybe a new idea. And sometimes you just have to say no. You might want to do it, but you know that your purpose, what you're working on right now, is more important. And so that structure really helps you. And the thing is, this is not, when you don't create a structure, what happens is that everything else creates a structure for you. This is the typical thing of showing up, looking at your email, and someone else structures your day through an email. But when you create those boundaries and you say, no, this is what my day looks like. 9, until 9, I work on my morning routine. 9 to 11, there's no emails, and I'm just going to work on content. It's you are putting some constraints, but at the same time, the structure works for you rather than you working within that structure. And it also means that, like we were saying earlier, a strong structure I have is that Monday and Thursday are my only my coaching days. That means that it's a strong structure. That it also means that if I want to fly to visit a friend or for a speaking gig on a Wednesday, I can do that no problem, because I have that structure that allows me to be unstructured. And at the same time, I know what to work on. I know when the important things will be done. So if a flight is delayed, if I don't feel well, if I have to look after a friend or help someone else for half a day, it's fine, because I know when everything will get done.
That resonates very true for me, because it's this constant task switching that just seems to dilute my focused energy in that moment in time. You know what I mean? So it's like, I see the real value in that.
It's the idea of multitasking. Like I think we've all been sold a lie with multitasking, is that sometimes it's even in a job description as a good multitasker.
Yeah.
And the thing is, research has shown that we can't multitask. It doesn't matter what gender, it doesn't matter what person you are. All our brain can do is switch really quickly from one task to another. Now, you can be good at that, you can be bad at that. The thing is, it's like having one manager and 10,000 employees. If you have a lot of tasks, you're going to be overwhelmed and it's going to be really inefficient. Now, it feels good because it feels like you are open in many things and you are kind of dealing with many things at any one time. But if you look at what you're finishing, if you look at what you're doing, if you look at your daily objectives, you'll find that actually you're moving a lot slower than when you monotask on one thing and you just do one, finish it, move on, finish it. And the great thing about that as well is that you finish one thing, you feel amazing, you've got the results from it, and now you can use that confidence in those results to finish the next thing. But when you open 10 things, you spread so thin, you have the anxiety from the other 9 things, you have the deadline from the other 9, and again, that confidence goes down, so it becomes more difficult to work on them.
I love it. Makes sense. How do you compress time? How did you write a book in 3.5 months? And what is this idea of a 14-day week?
Yes. So the idea of compressing time is really the fact that I want to experience as much as I can, right? I believe that time has no value. In fact, even if you think about it from a money point of view, why are some people paid a certain wage and other people another wage when we all have 24 hours? Why can some people make, $10,000 in 1 hour and, and other people get paid $8, per hour? It's because time has no value. It's what you create through that time that has any value. And it's the same in your life. If you spend that 1 hour at the post office, it's not a great hour, but if you spend that 1 hour, with great friends having a great conversation, wow, that's worth a lot. And again, it's the value that you create through that. And so really what I want to do is I want to compress as much value as I can in my 24 hours in my lifetime, so that I can live an extraordinary lifetime and get more results. I think if you can write one book in 3 years or three books in 1 year, I know which one I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose the three books.
Right.
And so the way I do that is, well, the first thing is I create a plan. Instead of, again, one of my favorite quotes, I tend to read it every morning actually, is a battle is won before it is ever fought, by Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And it's the idea that, if you have a plan that works for you, you look at the big picture. And then when you're in the battle, you know exactly what to do. There's no thinking. You know what your next step is. It's like when you train for a martial art. You rehearse everything. When you're actually doing it, you don't have to think about it because you've rehearsed it so many times. And so it's the same thing. You look at the big picture, you plan it out, and you go, this is what I need to do. This is when I need to do it in the sequence. And then you just have to do the work. There's no guessing, no thinking. So in the example of the book, all I did was like, okay, I want to write it in 3 months plus, an extra month for formatting, print, and promotion. So what do I need to do? So the first thing I did, I created a list of activities, a list of things I needed to do. So outline the book, outline every chapter. Then what I did is I transcribed. I talked out loud through every outline, got a transcript, and then I drafted that just to make it quicker. How can I have someone else create the transcript for me? But really, I wrote down every single action I needed to take from start to finish, and then I spread that across the 18, 20 weeks that I had. And then at that point, I knew what I had to do every week. Have I hit the milestone? Have I hit the goal or not? And if not, I need to adjust. I need to do something different. And then I used other people, like I said, the transcript. I used someone else to help me out with with the cover. I recently tested the title of the book, so I didn't want to. Okay, let's think about 10 or 100 titles and then just pick one. No, I wanted to see. Okay, let's see what the market says. What do they like? So I thought about a few titles and then I tested that. So I outsourced as much as possible. I didn't run the ads; someone else did for me. So that was really important. And at the same time, I think that when you compress time, when you give yourself a very short deadline, there's no time for fear to kick in. Because, right, this is my first book. If I think about it, it's not easy. It's not easy to put your name on a book. It's not easy to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to share this with hundreds of readers or maybe even more. It's going to be there. It's going to be on Google. I remember when I started a blog, I had so many scripts that were blocking me, or like, who's going to be interested in reading my stuff? And so the thing is, when you give yourself a short deadline, there's no time for you to think about what could go wrong, why I shouldn't do it, is this bad? No, you just do it, get it done, and move on. And really, you don't give fear that space in your calendar. And I think that's really, really powerful. And so you get more stuff done, you get the momentum, and you keep moving. And I think that's the power of compressing your time.
Yeah, I read something similar to that, like in is it called Parkinson's law? Like the complexity of a task increases with the amount of time that you associate with it, something like that.
Yes,
That's true. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so this is from like a study that was done, I think, in the 1800s. And Parkinson, he studied the bureaucracy of the British Empire, and the British Empire was shrinking, but the bureaucracy was growing. And he was saying, why is this happening? And so he studied why, that phenomenon was going on. And one of the things that he found out is that when you give yourself more time, then the task expands. When you give yourself less time, then everything shrinks to fit that time.
Yeah.
And by using that law, you can really bend time. It's crazy. And, a great lesson is my expectation to write a book was, I don't know, it's going to take me months, maybe even years. That's what I always thought, right? Now that I've done it in 3 months, the first thing that I thought, some people are like, wow, that's really impressive. But the first thing that I thought is like, well, why 3 months? Why not 1 month? Why not 2 weeks? Because now I've shattered that glass ceiling and I go like, what, that limit was just on my mind. It wasn't in my calendar. It wasn't on my clock. It wasn't part of the 24 hours. It was just in my mind. So what about the next book? That's what it makes me think. And that's the power of like compressing, right?
Wow. Well, Matt, let's talk about the book. This is a huge thing for you, man. So tell us, what inspired it? What is it? Who's it for? Give us all this.
So I think let's start from who's it for. I think that so the book was written for for business owners that really need to take back control of their time. Now, anyone can read it, and anyone that has a mission in life would benefit from it because they will be able to take back that control and be able to create value, create impact with their time. Now, the book is called How to Invest Your Time, and it is about like creating more value with your 24 hours. Again, we go back to creating more joy, creating great relationships, creating more monetary value, growing your business faster, writing a book faster. How can I do that? How can I create more value with those 24 hours? And so really it was written for those people that want to create and achieve more with their time, but it's written to challenge those limits that we have that maybe were imposed by society or by, the way that we used to work. I come from the corporate background. The way I used to work then was very different from the way I work now. And even in my first business, the way I used to work then was very, very different from the way I work now. And, I've done all the mistakes in the book. And that's why, I now know what works. And I've seen it in so many other business owners that I have the privilege to coach and help. And so the book was written with that in mind. And that said, I used to think that I've got this thing, there's this quote that resonated with me, which was, I write the books I need to read. And writing this book was so true for me. It really is like the book that solves your problems because you go through it and you go like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm doing. I need to do more of it. Or maybe this is a reminder of a principle that, is still applies to me. Or maybe I need to revisit it. So going through that was so good. It was such a great experience. And again, it takes you from a journey from time poor, I call it, to time rich. So from overwhelmed to really effective. From a moment when you go like, wow, there's not enough time in the day. We don't have enough time on the clock, right? To at the end, you go like, wow, I know when things will be done and I know what I want to accomplish in my 24 hours. And that's really the journey that the book takes you on. From like, so the first part is on eliminating the things that are not helping you and really looking at your day. How can I do less? And then the second part is all about, okay, how can I master my time? How can I master my day? And what are the things that will bring me disproportionate results? How can I understand which ones those are and do more of it?
Love it. And a lot of the ideas that we talked about today, these are all captured in the book as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Even the dream rate is in the second part of the book. And I really like that because it gives you, time is so ethereal. Like we said earlier, if you spend it at the post office or if you spend it with friends, it's got a very different value. So it's difficult to quantify it, right? And I think that the dream rate just gives you that way to do it. In the book, I talk about this moment where I was actually writing the actual book. And I like, I'm on a high fat diet and I put butter in my coffee. I really like that. So this day I was writing the book and I ran out of butter. I wanted like a decaf coffee with butter. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do now? So I put my coat on. I was about to leave the flat and go to buy some. And then I thought, hang on a second, I want to finish my book. That butter is not worth my dream rate. I shouldn't do it. And I remember that day I finished a chapter and a half and I was like, this was such a great decision. And it's all because I looked at the value of that. I was like, I don't value that drink as much as what I can create in this 1 hour.
I love it. You really do have a beautiful mind, Matt Sandrini. That's amazing, man.
Thank you.
When does the book come out? Where can we get a copy?
So the book is out 4th of April. It'll be, so in the beginning, it will be on Amazon, on Kindle and a paperback. And then later in April, it will be on Audible as well. You can find a free chapter in audio and print at timezillionaire.com/book. That's timezillionaire.com/book. And the actual book will be on Amazon and the link will be timezillionaire.com/invest your time.
Love it. And how can our audience connect with you on social?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and LinkedIn at Matt Sandrini. And I would love to, if there was one takeaway, I would love to hear that. Maybe, again, on some of the social, they can write to me on Instagram or Twitter. Just let me know what's one takeaway at Matt Sandrini. I would love to hear that.
Awesome. Matt, you know what I love about this journey that we're on, man, and just the stories that I hear through entrepreneurship is that when we first talked, you and I were both different, man. It's like I got to know Matt before he became an author. And you like knew me when I was still working a job and doing this thing as a side hustle. But now it's like, it's amazing, right? Just to see the growth and growing together and supporting each other. I love it, man. And you're in the UK. You know what I mean? It's like, how did this ever happen?
I love that.
Yeah, man.
The third time we'll do this, it'll be in Dallas.
Yeah,
third time
dude.
we'll do this will be.
I started doing these live events, man, and I would love to get you in front of my audiences, man. You'd add a tremendous amount of value. And there's, you know what, man, about you too, you're like an author, but there's so much like you're entertaining to hear, to listen to. You're so engaging, you know what I'm saying? It's like I want to hear more because it's coming from you.
I appreciate that. And like you said, it's my privilege to see your journey. And you know what's really exciting? That I think that things compound. So 2 years from now, it'll be even more exciting to see that, because we are standing on the wins that we've had in the past 2 years and the years before. So it'll be incredible. I'm excited to see your journey. I'm excited to see where this takes you. And it's great that we can share it. That we can share it together.
Absolutely, man. Well, Matt, you are a friend of the podcast. You are welcome back anytime. We'll make sure to have all of your contact information in the show notes. We'll definitely plug the book. And dude, I'm just so glad to know you, man.
Same for me. And we'll speak soon. And thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And everyone else, thank you all for tuning into another episode of the Pathways to Success. As always, make sure to subscribe, comment, and share. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Pathways to Success.